Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Apartment Department, the podcast for multifamily marketers by multifamily marketers. I know I say this every time, but we have a very, very special guest with us today, Chris and I. By the way, I'm Ann Baum. I am the co-host of the Apartment Department, and I am the marketing director at Town Properties. My co-host is Chris Johnson. He is the marketing leader at Irwin Rose down in Dallas, Texas. And our very special guest today is Matthew Kilmurry. He is the founder of Apartment Geo-Fencing, and we're so excited to have Matthew on for a couple reasons. First, a few months ago, we had one of his clients on our podcast, Debbie Ballaker, and she's probably one of the smartest people I know. And she talked a lot about about geofencing and streaming ads. And so we knew that we had to have Matthew on to talk about. Honestly, before the show started, Matthew and I were talking about, I truly believe that geofencing and streaming ads are the next pay-per-click and SEO. And so to be able to talk to him about kind of the beginning of the company and what the future holds is really exciting. So with that, Matthew, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah. Well, and Chris, thank you so much for having me. I love what you guys are doing with this podcast, and really happy to be here, and really just happy to be part of developing content that can help multifamily marketers kind of level up. Because there are a lot of things that are out there that we need to level up with. I was in my previous life, I was at Bozzuto and Avalon Bay, and I've been kind of on the client side, and it's a lot. There's a lot to learn, and so this is just such a great tool that you guys are providing to multifamily marketers out there. And I started apartmentgeofencing.com in 2019, so we're a little over 5 years old, because I saw an underutilized technology in the marketplace, geofencing, and really at that time made a strategic decision to do one thing and be the absolute best at it. And the reason for that is that platforms are becoming more and more sophisticated. Meta, Google, SEO, reputation management, kind of all those things. And I think gone are the days where you can be a full service digital marketing agency and be an expert in all of those things. We're now working with 2,600 apartment communities nationwide. We have a team of 70 people, and all we do is geofencing. And that's how many people we need to do it, because these things are complex, and it requires a lot of energy and, to run them so that it provides the performance that the clients expect.
That's amazing. 70 people, 2,600 apartment communities. Can you explain? I've been familiar with geofencing for a while, but can you explain to our listeners who might not be familiar with the concept of geofencing, what exactly it is?
Yeah, it has changed over time, but in essence, geofencing allows us to capture mobile device IDs in a small area. You kind of define how big or small that area is, or a geofence, as we call it, using GPS coordinates instead of that typical 10 or 15-mile radius that we see within Meta and Google. So we can draw a geofence around competitors, points of interest in the neighborhood, or major employers, and then serve mobile ads to anyone who enters that zone for up to 30 days. So once they go into the zone, that mobile device ID, which is anonymous, by the way, very important privacy perspective. We don't know who the person is. We don't know their cell phone number, their first and last name. We know that this device ID went to this location. And when they go in there, they get added to a list, and they're on that list for 30 days. So during that time, those 30 days time, we're serving up mobile ads, we're trying to influence their decision along the prospect journey. And this is why geofencing is different. This is not, marketing that is, direct marketing, like, paid search would be, where somebody has raised their hand and said, I'm interested in a 2-bedroom apartment downtown Philadelphia. This is somebody who's visiting or touring a competitor property, and we're showing them ads and interrupting their daily life. They're on, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, or Words with Friends, and they're seeing ads, and we're just exposing them over and over again to the message, because they're going to do what all prospects do eventually. They're going to go and do a Google search. They're going to bounce around a couple websites. Maybe they're going to ask ChatGPT. They're going to do all of these things to narrow their scope down.
Yep.
And we need tactics within branding and awareness to kind of, help move them more in the direction. And we approach geofencing a lot like paid search in a way. So first we do market research. So like AKA, keyword research to determine the best geofences to target. And this is where geofencing has kind of changed over time. And that it used to be, we would just send a client a spreadsheet and say, hey, where do you want to target?
Yep.
And enough clients said, hey, well, where should I target? So now we use that mobile location data to see, okay, the people who live at my competitor, this is where they used to live. So these are the apartment communities where a year ago they moved from this community to this community. So we're able to see feeder communities, maybe, B properties that are upgrading to A properties. This is where they work. This is the drive time map. This is how far they're willing to drive for work. Here's where they go shopping. So we're able to use this mobile location data, market by market, to be able to say, here's where your prospects are, much like you would like long tail keywords in paid search. So you develop this research, and then we start to target them through precise targeting, using, mobile ads showing on their screen. And then we'll optimize that moving forward. So we'll start to see, okay, let's pause and, replace this geofence. Let's put more money towards this one, right? And really narrow down the, what the best performing campaign is property by property.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a game changer in just how you approach the fencing versus where it was when it first came out, where you're using all this other data and all the collection that we have to get smart about who you're going to target, which I think is pretty amazing. And you're doing some other stuff that's innovative within the industry, right? Because it's not just the geofencing and phones, you're doing some other means of advertising, correct?
Yeah, we are. So I think that, mobile ads was the main focus for a couple of years. And then the streaming TV market started to diversify, right? So more and more people started using streaming on their TVs. Outside the, like Roku, and started growing, and Samsung TV and that kind of stuff. And then more and more of the big players, HBO, Hulu, now Disney Plus and Netflix, they are starting to accept advertising. So what was once kind of this fragmented market, now there is a huge audience watching streaming TV. And smart TVs are devices, just like a mobile device. They have a device ID, just like your phone does. They're connected to the Wi-Fi, so we know where they are located based on GPS coordinates. And so what we're able to do is target competitors and show TV ads to everybody who lives there for your apartment community. We used to do the door hangers. I don't know if you remember this way back in the day, but we would literally hire somebody to go into a competitor community and like hang little door hangers and stuff like that. So now we can like literally drop door hangers onto their TV.
Yeah, I mean, I just keep thinking, like, I've always been obsessed with billboards, because I think apartment communities don't really use billboards, but basically I'm like, okay, you're providing digital billboards for people all the time. I mean, I'm on my phone all the time. People are on their TVs all the time. Do the streaming ads include YouTube as well?
It does not include YouTube. YouTube is a walled garden. You can only access YouTube through Google.
Through the Google Ads platform.
Yeah, through the Google Ads platform. Google Ads has that 10-mile radius. So
got it.
The videos that we produce you can run them on Google, but typically what I recommend for clients is really just stick with like retargeting as it relates to Google YouTube ads.
What type of data are you seeing with your retargeting and getting smarter with how you're targeting your prospects? Have you seen an uptick in clicks or walk-ins, I guess, when the fence hits? And how are you continuing to get better? What metrics are you using to drive your success?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess as part of the what is geofencing? What I forgot to mention is that we create a what we call conversion zones. We have geofences, which are the target zones. That's where we're going to show ads. Then we have a conversion zone, which is your property, and we're able to see we're able to show on a monthly basis how many people saw the ads, whether it's a TV commercial or a mobile phone, and then how many of them came to your apartment community, as long as it's within that 30-day window. And we created a new stat in the industry. Because at first we were calling it like conversions. I was like, but that's not really conversions. Like conversions, like somebody fills out a lead. So we created we call it the walk-ins. We have the number of walk-ins and the cost per walk-in. And that's my favorite, the cost per walk-in. We're very open and honest with clients that if you look at our report and you see that there's 30 walk-ins from the ads that people saw, we're not 100% of the reason why they came in to your community, because it all works together. And this is why, it should be approached almost like a media plan where, geofencing, whether it's mobile ads or streaming TV, is branding and awareness. It's top of funnel. It's a much larger audience than you're typically getting in front of in paid search or ILSs.
Yep.
So that community in Philadelphia that I fictitious one I just mentioned is that, they've got a couple options with their marketing budget. They can, say if they need to drive some more traffic or they're in a competitive market, they can get the diamond package on the ILS, or they can increase their paid search budget, and maybe their cost per click goes up. They get, incremental 10% additional clicks. Or, that audience is finite. There's only so many people typing that keyword, and there's only so many people on that page on the ILS. Or with geofencing, in a fair housing compliant way, you can get in front of 10, 20 times that number of people. And what we look at is unique. We've been, educating the industry for a couple of years now that, when you look at reports for branding and awareness, don't look at, what's my cost per lead or cost per lease. Because, one, even if we were able to show cost per lead or lease, which we can't because of the anonymous nature of mobile device IDs,
yep,
it wouldn't even be fair to show that, because they, with branding awareness, they're going to interact with you. The last research I read said 12 additional ways before they fill out just a lead or a tour. And so what we look at is the interaction rate on ads, so that we know that the ad itself is connecting the right message. And then we look at walk-ins. So if we're targeting 10 different competitors in their leasing office, how many people came into the conversion zone from those 10 places? But we don't say that those led to a lease, or those is what are the tours that you had for that month. But we use it in a directional way. As marketers, we need levers to pull. We need to be able to optimize campaigns to improve that. In a 10-mile radius within Meta, there's no way to optimize that campaign. There's literally no way to optimize a Meta campaign unless you are just changing out ads. Within geofencing, you're able to say, okay, I got 5 walk-ins here, 20 walk-ins here. Let me move some of my budget from the 5 over to the 20, because I know I'm getting in front of the right people. And that is what allows us to optimize the campaigns over time, is the walk-in and the cost per walk-in. Streaming TV is interesting because it's not clickable. And so in these ads, there's a lot more inventory for 15-second commercials than there are for 30-second commercials. So typically we do run both 15 and 30-second commercials for clients, but 60-70% of the commercial views are on the 15-second inventory. And it's too fast for a QR code. We've run QR codes on both types, and the scans on the 15-second was 0, because you just can't get your phone out fast enough in 15 seconds. On the 30-second commercial, it was 0.1%. So even then, I'm sure we annoyed a lot of people that are trying to get their phone out. So with commercials, it goes back to some of that initial marketing, concepts that we have, which is, if I've got, $1,000, I know I should be putting 10 to 20% in branding and awareness. And then inside branding and awareness, now I'm not going to compare my branding and awareness to my direct response marketing. I'm going to compare it to each other, So maybe a YouTube ad or paid social or geofencing, those are kind of branding and awareness. And how can I compare them against each other? I'm comparing apples to apples. And some things you can look at though with TV commercials is brand lift. So are my organic branded search terms increasing, right? Are more people searching for my apartment community? Has that gone up month over month? Direct traffic to my website. And, if you don't change anything else, did my leads go up in ILSs? Because if people are searching for me, maybe they don't come to my website. They go to my listing on apartments.com, and my ILS performance has increased by running TV commercials.
Yep. I think that's Matthew, that's kind of interesting because that's something that we've been working on internally, is basically tracking that entire funnel. And so I've been looking at something called basically an impression to view conversion rate. So how many impressions overall is a property getting? And so that could include views on streaming TV. It could include impressions from a geofencing campaign. And then basically how many views did that property get? And the views become like clicks, basically website visits and some other things, but I'm looking at them as a whole. So how many views, or excuse me, how many impressions to how many views. And so I think using a model like that, if you add a geofencing campaign, a streaming ad campaign, it would be easy to see where that lift comes in, because you're going to see more impressions. And then ultimately, like you're saying, you're in theory going to see more views on your website, on your ILS listings, etc. So I think you're onto something. I think we're kind of guilty as multifamily marketers of kind of trying to track straight in that consideration phase, and we forgot about the awareness phase. And like you're saying, it's time to get that back in there, because it's really important.
Yeah, in all my years of marketing, I don't think I ever ran a TV campaign, like a traditional TV campaign, because it wouldn't make sense. TV was DMA based, which means like, Mark Ryan in DC, that's from like Northern Virginia all the way up to Baltimore. It's
Yeah.
It's huge. 1.2 million people or something. And to show an apartment commercial would just be such a waste of money. Budgets are limited at the property level. But when you mix in the two, one, that TVs are now devices and you can target them one by one, and mobile location-based marketing, where I can target TVs specifically in these locations. All of a sudden, we run TV campaigns for clients that, they're spending $400 a month. We're able to show their commercial, thousands of times, just to the right people.
It's amazing. I mean, and it's accessible now. TV commercials, not only from a DMA standpoint, but from a cost standpoint, TV commercials were almost out of reach for organizations with, businesses with smaller budgets. And now I think Hulu's self-serving, you can do like, I think it's like a $500 minimum or something. I don't really remember, but it's the streaming devices have made TV advertising accessible along with the targeting.
With all of this, I said we have to remember too, with all of this, that you still need to have a branding exercise in order for people to find you. It can't all be about bottom of funnel. They have to start somewhere, and they're in their search. And so if you catch them early, that's even better, because then you're top of mind when they're going through the rest. So of course we want conversions, but we also need eyeballs to see where we're at. On the TV, I remember early 2000s, KB Home was doing it on the new home side, and we thought it was amazing, except their ads were running at 3 a.m. in Los Angeles, where I was my career, and we would like record it, and they'd say, "Oh my God, KB's on TV. They did an ad," because they were so expensive, and especially in a market like LA or DC or New York or whatever, you couldn't do it for a single community. There's no way.
Yeah, it had to be a whole. That's interesting. Chris, wasn't it Jude that we were talking to, who he basically was like, multifamily is like the only kind of industry that doesn't actively invest in their brand. He's like, and it's just the most bizarre. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that stuck out to me, and I think it's true. But again, I think we're on the cusp of that really changing. I'm hearing brand conversations, it feels like, all the time. And so, like we talked about before, you're in such a great place to support kind of as people are coming into this idea that I need to be branding my communities. So, and I need brand awareness. Can you give us some examples of how your clients are using geofencing and maybe some success stories that you've heard?
Yeah, sure. So, our first client was Bizzuto. And, we were really in the beginning utilizing geofencing in the lease up phase, right? So they had, brand new building. We wanted to build awareness of this building that was coming soon, build a list, and then, doing lots of targeting, specifically, metro stops, like in the DC area, if it was transit oriented development, or, if it was, part of a, mixed use community, making sure, people who maybe wanted to move into this brand new mixed use community, would, know of this new product offering there. And what we saw over time is that, they would come in to us and say, hey, well, we also have this other property that's, kind of just in suburbia, or we have one up in, this area that might even be close to rural. And we started utilizing geofencing for different types of properties, garden style, urban, suburban. And we started seeing that even in those cases, and in some ways it was maybe even a little bit more successful, because if you have a community that is garden style, that's a little bit in the woods, or even just kind of hidden a little bit, that has no visibility like you would in maybe like a high rise in an urban area. And so we would be able to target people 10 miles away. And in some areas, 10 miles isn't that long, because there's, like a major highway that connects the two. And so we started seeing all these different use cases for different property types. And even in there, we would kind of move from that pre-leasing and lease up, more even into stabilized communities. Because once you say get fully occupied, or get, 98% occupied or fully occupied, there's this idea of, well, I need to stop my advertising, right? Because I have no product to offer, which makes sense. If I was an asset manager and I'm, trying to get as much money out of this asset as I could, and we've got no product to offer, I would probably call the management company or the marketing manager and say, hey, turn off the advertising. But over time, what we've seen is that they've moved to this thinking of, okay, well, maybe we'll stop paid search, because there's no brand value. There's no long-term value in a keyword click, because somebody's at the end of their research and they're close to making a decision. If you have nothing opening up in 30 days, no availability in 30 days, then that is wasted advertising dollars. But with branding and awareness, that's the time to push maybe even a little bit harder into that, because you want to build awareness. You want to build kind of a list of people who might be, interested in your property when you have, apartment homes to rent. So we've seen success across a lot of different areas. I would say we've seen a lot of success with clients who are moving away from ILSs. I don't know if you've, talked about that much on your podcast, but more and more, as ILSs have been consolidating, as they've been pushing up pricing, as they standardized, how they show communities more and more, there's just a real frustration in the industry. Because we spend all this time, one, building this beautiful product, and then creating this amazing and a brand for it, and a beautiful website. And then we all get the same character limits on headlines, the same scroll box on the website with my pictures. There's no way to differentiate ourselves within the ILSs. And, any way that you can get your property in front of people with that big hero shot, the personality, the vibe of it, is going to differentiate you in the marketplace.
Yeah, no, that is something. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I would just say I'm a big believer in that, and I pulled my ILSs. I pulled them at my last firm, and I've cut back big time at my new firm to use different types of marketing levers that I think give me better traffic. I think it's wild that we pay a ton of money to sit next to our competitors, and so we're all paying to like sit next to each other. That's wild to me. Although I do like the pay per lease type of ILS because at that point you're getting your ROI. And so to me, it's less risky, but I'm a big proponent.
Yeah. I think, what is it? It's like, it is crazy. And even if you get someone to an ILS, there's like 30% of people are using filters. And so then it's like, are you going to get filtered out? Like, just because you're listed doesn't even mean that you're going to get shown, but you're paying regardless of whether you get an impression or not, regardless of whether or not people are seeing your community. So I think you're onto something, that being able to control who's seeing our community and really being able to highlight the value of it, on our terms, is really appealing.
And especially with commercials. I don't know about you, but when I'm streaming TV, all I see is Geico over and over and over again, State Farm. We're still in the infancy of streaming TV. And so the inventory is vast, but the advertisers are few. And so if I'm streaming something on Hulu and a local commercial comes on, I mean, it captures my attention. And if you're sitting at an apartment community and maybe that doesn't have a pool or the parking is poor, and we're able to show you a commercial about the brand, the rooftop pool and free parking at, the competitor community, it really has a strong message. And that's what I love about it the most, is, in some ways we're in marketing, right? We watch the Super Bowl and the big TV ads and everything. And as a marketer, that's, kind of, there's like an excitement there. And in multifamily, it's always felt so commoditized and transactional. And so one of my favorite things about streaming TV is that it adds the marketing back in marketing. We get to have, do the really kind of impactful marketing at the local level for a cost that we can afford. It's great.
Hey, Matthew, may I ask you a question related to where you send prospects with the geofencing campaigns? Have you tested creating a landing page old school wise? I talk about this a lot, going back to the old ways that we used to do it back in the day, where you actually created the landing page for the campaign. Do you bring them to your homepage? Do you try to get them to a floor plan page? What are you seeing? What's the most effective way to not only get them to click, but then get them to stay once they do click?
Yeah. So it is typically the homepage, because I would say this might be the first time they've ever seen your property. So most clients don't have the ability to create that wow factor landing page that is the overview, the value proposition of the property in a tightly made landing page that gives the full story and a link to, and strong calls to action. So I would say of the thousands that we work with, the homepage does that the best typically. But we do work with some clients that are more sophisticated and they're able to create that kind of wow factor landing page. In those scenarios, we do that. The average time on a website for people coming from geofencing is going to be much less than what you see in organic, paid search and that kind of stuff, because again, we're interrupting their daily lives. The frequency to showing the frequency, the number of times that we need to show the ad to somebody to cut through the clutter is now 26 times. And we've gotten so distracted. There's so much flashing at us that we have to show an ad 26 times for somebody to start to, recognize it. So the average time on a website can vary between 10 seconds to 20 seconds. I've seen, comparative to organic search traffic could be that 20 to 60 seconds. And depending on your website, how many pages and the type of content, that may vary, but it is less. And it makes sense because the volume of traffic is much higher. So when you look at the traffic sources coming in, geofencing will be one of your top sources. The average time on site will be less than, paid search. But again, they're in a different part of the funnel.
Yeah.
And so the types of ads and landing pages that we show, I think, is also based on where they're at in that funnel. So again, geofencing's at the top. But I would say adding people into a retargeting audience is, the best time to change your call to action. So it's top of funnel. It should be stuff like learn more, right? And then now they've been on your website once and you're following them around. Now it should be like schedule a tour. That they've been to your homepage and that was it, right? So like your retargeting audience of your homepage. Now people who made it to your floor plan page, that retargeting audience, your call to action should be lease now. So like changing your messaging, the images kind of along the way for the different ads that you're showing is critical to keep them moving down the funnel.
Do you know people who are are that sophisticated with their marketing right now? Like, are there property management companies that are successfully pulling something like that off? Because it sounds nice.
Yeah, I would definitely throw Bazzuto's name out there. And they've just got it down to a science, and that they create all of these ads at the very beginning. So it's like, okay, when they take over a property, a new lease up, or, if they get new photography or something, they create all the different versions, all the different calls to action. They identify which audiences are going to get which across kind of all their advertising. And that's the way to do it, because if you try to piecemeal it, it's just too much.
Yeah.
There's too many properties. There's too much going on. You got to just, get them all done at one time. And that's the direction that we're moving in the video creation that we're doing. So we were, doing videos for clients the old school way a couple of years ago when we launched streaming TV, where we would hire a copywriter. We would then hire a voiceover artist. We would hire a production person to add the music and put in all the images and everything, and create like a montage video, 15-30-second montage video. It would take us 20 days to do it, 20 business days with the back and forth. And if there are any edits, and now we had to re-record it, we had to get back on the voiceover artist schedule, right? It could be even longer. Costs were, $500 to $1,000. And that was like doing it at the lowest cost we possibly could. And then ChatGPT came out. And within a couple of months, we were able to create an integration with OpenAI to where we feed every bit of information about the community, all the text from the website, all the images, and it produces a commercial in like 30 seconds. And it puts together all the images, writes a script, has a synthetic voiceover. So, there's a voice that adds music. It even puts images and text together. It doesn't get you 100% of the way there. It's about 80%, I would say. And then a human being has to really guide it from there. So it's about the prompt, it's about what you put in, and then it's about, the tweaking, afterwards. And, but it gets you 80% of the way there. I call it human assisted video instead of AI video. We call it human assisted video. Yeah. And that's the direction that we're heading. We do it now for clients on a monthly basis. But what we've noticed is that creative fatigue sets in around day 21 and definitely by day 30. And so you have to have fresh creative all the time. People are expecting it. And then when you think of like a video first strategy in multifamily, you've got all these different places where you could put video. Yes, we can use it for streaming TV and geofencing, but you can also use video for, your website, the homepage, the floor plans page, for your Google local ads, for PMAX, for, on the review sites, kind of all that stuff, and mapping out all the different commercials and videos that you're going to need, and allowing AI to create all of that up front. And then, getting back to what we were originally talking about, having those videos be specific to where people are in the prospect journey. So the language changes, the calls to action change, so that you can kind of deploy a video first strategy across everything at one time.
I need a whiteboard like you have in your background. And Chris and I have been talking about this for years. We've been talking about rebuilding the marketing funnel, and you're reigniting that interest, because it's just amazing how many opportunities there are. Chris, you're really big into video right now. That's been one of the things that you've been focused on this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, same as what Matthew's talking about. We're using video and splicing it in much different ways and try to use it everywhere we can. I think one of the things that I'm really having fun with the team right now, and I don't take credit for this because I'm not the video guy, but we were having a lot of fun having these discussions, and the discussion or the direction I'm giving my team, go make a TikTok video, tight a video, but we're not going to put it on TikTok. So let's have the cool transitions. Let's have some speed up, some slow down. Let's have some depth. Let's kind of have fun with it. And so we've been creating videos that way internally, and we're starting to have a really, really good success with it. And people are reacting to these videos, and we're putting in our plan on how we're going to go forward with it. So it's been a lot of fun to do so. I do have to say, Bizzuto is a company I've admired for many years. I first learned about them at AIM in 2007 or 8, whenever I went for the first time. And so it's always been a company I've looked up to because they've always been at the forefront of technology and how we market in this industry differently. And so it's kind of neat to hear that they're still doing it the right way and how they're setting up these campaigns. I can tell you straight up, I've never thought about setting up multiple campaigns on a takeover and group them from the very beginning. And I think that's a great idea. And I think we can start doing that now. That's really fantastic. So it's great insight, Matthew, that you're bringing.
I was at AIM. So I worked at Bizzuto in, from 2007 to, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something. And I was at AIM. I wonder if, what would that be? More than 15 years ago, if you and I were in the same room and now we're on a podcast.
This back then, wild, right? Because AIM back then was like 500 attendees.
Yep.
It wasn't like it is today. Obviously, AIM's a great conference. I love it. But it was back then, it was at its infancy. I think in 2008, that was like year two of it, maybe 3 at the most. So that's fun. Small world.
Yeah, it's great.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about streaming ads, kind of examples of how clients are using it, how they're measuring results, anything? You've thrown so many good stats and use cases at us already, but
yeah, anything else you want to add before we close out?
Yeah, so on the streaming TV side, we launched something called ReTV, which is retargeting for TV. And it's really interesting. So the short of this is, because I could talk about this all day, is that there's something called cross-device matching. Okay. And it's really going to be how, especially as cookies, are only in Chrome now. They've been blocked other places. Chrome is going to be adding ways, for people to opt out, and individual websites are opting out, and California makes you opt out, all this kind of stuff around pixels. Cross-device matching, what it does is, in your apartment or home, you probably have multiple TVs, multiple phones, multiple laptops, all associated with the same IP address because you're on a shared Wi-Fi. And so we're able to group all those device IDs together. And so if you visit my apartment community website from your laptop, that laptop's device ID gets captured. Then we're able to see that device ID is associated with the smart TV device ID. And we know that that's a connected TV. And so we're able to show 15 to 30-second commercials to people who visited the website. And it's just really creepy, cool, magical when somebody goes to a website and then a commercial for that thing they were looking online comes on their TV. And we have that for our websites. If you visit apartmentgeofencing.com, go onto Hulu, Samsung TV, any one of those things, and you might see our commercial. And I can't tell you how many times clients have taken a picture and be like, "How did you end up on my TV?" And they're like, "Text it to me." Yeah.
you're like, I can do that for you. Oh my gosh.
And in terms of the future of location-based marketing, so a couple of things I'll just throw out there that we're working on right now is we will probably be connecting location-based marketing to paid social in the next couple of months, building those audiences based on mobile device ID, and then through a clean room, adding them in as audiences into Meta. So privacy safe, fair housing safe way of building audiences in Facebook to be able to target. So that's one. And then the other one I would say is we're launching a new brand. Look for it in March of next year. That's really going to be focused on the human assisted video, opening it up to kind of all properties across the country, enabling people to have a video first strategy at a super affordable rate using AI, so they can add video to every advertising tactics that they use.
That sounds amazing. And like you said, the fatigue being, I think that's the hardest part about video is that it's expensive and clunky is not the right word, but we've built video in-house before using Venmo's kind of self-serve template, and it's time consuming. And so it's, we'll make one video for a community and then leave it up for 4 months as a YouTube ad. And then, like you said, well, 21 days in, it's not doing any good because people are sick of it. And so the fact that you're finding a solution for that challenge, making video accessible, I think sounds really, really amazing. I know Chris and his team will be all over that. Chris is like, video for everyone. Chris, anything else that we didn't think to ask Matthew?
No, I think this was a great conversation. Thanks, Matthew, for coming on today.
I know, my brain. I'm so excited. Debbie was onto something when she talked to us all those months ago. She believes heavily in you guys, and I met her 2 years ago at AIM, and she was talking about, she's like, you have to do geofencing, you have to do streaming ads, and so to be able to talk to you and really understand kind of the magic behind what you're doing was really special. So thank you so much, Matthew. Chris, as always, thank you. Carlos, our producer, thank you for making us sound good. And until next time, this is the Apartment Department.